Dr. Ashish Jha, how much of a concern is it? Because you trace your origins back to India, and I'm not just saying this about India. This could happen as much in the United States or elsewhere, where people with heft and influence will find some way of circumventing the elaborate system that Dr. Paul and all the other medical experts have rolled out and say, whatever it takes, I'll pay you money. We saw it happen in the case of demonetization, where you weren't allowed to turn your black into white. People found ways. And if I am a rich person in Delhi, Mumbai, Surat, Ahmedabad, anywhere, I will say, boss, no matter what it takes, get me that vaccine and I'll do what it takes to find some jugaad.
Yeah, I'm worried about this, Rahul. I think this is going to be a problem around the world. I think there are two ways to think about this problem. First of all, I'm worried that what's going to happen is that the wealthy countries will end up getting most of their populations vaccinated before middle-income or lower-income countries have had a chance to even vaccinate their high-risk people. I think that would be terrible, and I would like to see a more global effort where the high-risk people everywhere get vaccinated before everyone else does. So I think that kind of thing is going to happen, and I am worried about that. Within individual countries, it just depends on how strong the safeguards are. And in the US, we've seen with testing, for instance, that when testing has become in short supply, the wealthy people can get themselves tested all the time, and poor people are often having to wait long, long periods of time before they can get tested. And so it is absolutely critical that we don't repeat that same problem with vaccinations, and I think a lot of us are working on that in the United States. But you know, I am from India. I know India well, and I know that, let's be honest with each other, India has always had a system where wealthy people can find their way around almost any rule. And so it'll be incumbent on government to make sure that when the supplies are limited, the neediest, the sickest, the oldest, the healthcare workers, they get vaccinated first. If you see a lot of wealthy people who are well-connected getting vaccinated before everybody else, I think it will cause a real strife in the system, a real loss of faith about what the government is doing. So it's going to be critical that what Dr. Paul laid out is actually what happens and is not just a good policy on paper.
Dr. Paul, the other concern I have is about people who tell me that I don't intend to get vaccinated. I don't trust this vaccine. It takes more than a decade ordinarily to ensure that you have an efficacious vaccine. These vaccines have been made in 10 months. How do we know that there won't be long-term side effects? You know, I get this shot and they haven't tested enough people. They've tested far fewer than they ordinarily do, and this could be problematic. So even if you look at global studies, then it's not as if everyone's saying they're okay with the vaccine. Many people are saying they don't need the vaccine. They don't take the vaccine. They're not comfortable with it, they don't trust it. How do you deal with this situation where you have a substantial number of people who simply don't have faith in the vaccine that's being given to them?
Firstly, the regulatory system that is in place for India has stood the test of time. Our vaccines are accepted the world over. More than 2/3 of the vaccines used in children globally are made in India. And therefore, once a vaccine is licensed in the country, it will be licensed for the world. It will be pre-qualified for WHO. And given our track record, I assure you that such questions will not arise, and there is no reason and no pressure whatsoever for us to go for any shortcuts. Very, very clearly, the regulatory processes, which are global standards, will be followed.
No, I'm not contesting that, sir. Dr.
No,
Paul,
I'm coming to the second part.
I'm saying
no,
it's not as if we don't believe your process. Of course we do, but there are people who, despite that, will say, "मैं नहीं लगाऊंगा भाई, मुझे नहीं विश्वास." अब क्या करोगे?
पहली बात है कि उनको समझाना पड़ेगा कि ये जब लाइसेंस किया जा रहा है तो ये सब robustness आ चुकी. Second issue is, remember, there are always situations where there is a anti-vaccine lobby, and these people do want to take risk. People think that this is not needed. Well, I think the situation in India is likely to be other way around. There will be an overwhelming reason that people would like to go for vaccine. I think COVID-19 is a disease which has, would have changed the mindset of such people as well. I think the problem would be other way around, that there will be a large number of people who would be very keen that they should get the vaccine before even the priority groups are getting vaccine. I don't expect vaccine hesitancy to be a very significant problem in our country, given the kind of situation that COVID-19 has led to. and I think it is not a worry. Also remember, this is a vaccine to be given to adult population. We will appeal to them and explain to them why it is a good idea to take vaccine, particularly when we are going to first go for vulnerable groups with high mortality, with diabetes, old age, and so on. I think a good communication strategy, we will be able to convince people to do the right thing, and vaccine hesitancy or vaccine anti-vaccinism, so to say, should not be an important
No, this
problem.
is a big problem in the United States for certain.